Great. Okay. Welcome, everyone. We're just going to wait a moment here. Yeah, somebody already got booted, and now they're maybe coming back. So we're just going to wait a moment for more folks to arrive. But in the meantime, welcome everyone for folks that haven't maybe ever been on a call with me or anything before. Probably a lot of you are from the Shared and Hopeful server, I imagine. Thanks for joining. This is maybe your first time. Actually, you've probably heard from me many times, but just loosely, sort of in the tutoring services channel. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, I have a whole bunch of your works in my drawing software ready to go, so I can start reviewing this immediately. I thought I would just wait maybe a few more moments, but if anyone has any specific questions. And please don't ask me when the portfolio requirements are coming out. It should be any moment now, hopefully. There's sort of I don't know if it's a rumor, but there seems to be some indication of maybe it's coming out tomorrow on Tuesday, but I don't want to spread a rumor either, so I'm cautious to even mention that. But yeah, there is some folks who have maybe found out some information that yeah, it might arrive on Tuesday. So that would be exciting. But so just to give you a tiny update about me, my name's Garth. I'm the animation tutor. And I went to Sheridan a few years ago now. And since that time, I've actually hired a bunch of animation students occasionally for my freelance work. So I'm a freelance animator and illustrator. I've illustrated books, one-off illustrations for such a wide range of different stuff that the randomness of it sometimes is staggering. I've done short little animated videos for a whole bunch of different kinds of clients, not just within the animation industry, but for other things, like just small businesses that need a video. Because I do a lot of different stuff. I'm kind of a generalist. I don't just do animation. I do the compositing of animation. I do the background painting. I do the layouts. So being a generalist, I think makes me a decent teacher of this stuff because I can kind of like dip in and out of a lot of different kind of various art forms within animation, the subcategories. Okay, so here's our artwork that we're going to have reviewed today. And I just grabbed this from the Animation Tutor Discord. So yeah, if you want to, okay, great. Wow. So there is, wow, all this just came in. Okay, cool. Well, I'll grab some of this. It's a little late in the game but I'll pull some of it in that I can just kind of see readily here. Um, a lot of layouts. It's interesting how so many of you have, I guess the layouts, a lot of people feel like they're probably not going to change very much, which is probably pretty safe to say. This is pretty fun. Okay. Um, yeah. This in. So these are all different sizes. So which maybe I'll comment on. So I don't know, is Leafy here? Whoever is Leafy in the server. Or sorry, that's not this is sorry, I saw this one. Am I too late for that? Alona da Donut. If you're here, just make sure, I just want to make sure right off the bat that your file is oh good, you're here. So like I'm sure your original file is bigger, but just make sure that it is because right now, yeah, see. Maybe this is just Discord too. There might be a degree of compression, but just make sure that it's a good file, like really, really nice and high res. Um, okay, this is very fun too. It's nice to see some more characters actually. I thought it was gonna be mostly background stuff, but I love backgrounds though. I can talk your ears off about backgrounds, but um, yeah, I'm probably not going to do any animation right now. It's just a little tricky to kind of like jump across. Um, okay, yeah, I'll see if I can get to it, but I have a pretty full file right now actually. So, um, all right, so I got the chat open here for, oh, good, it's just a screenshot. Okay, great, Alona, that's good to hear. So yeah, I've got your chat open. So if you do have a question as I'm going, then just ask anytime. You can even speak up if you want to. I know everyone's probably a little shy, but that's fine either way. But yeah, we got a good mixture of work here. So it's nice to see a whole bunch of your shared and portfolio process in progress. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I don't know whose this is, so I think this maybe is yours, Tay. I don't know if you're here, Tay, but maybe this is your hand. Oh, this is yours, Alona. Okay, great. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. Okay, so pretty good, Alona. I like how first off, like we have okay. Yeah, I always say it's pretty good, and then I start to notice things. There's small things, but so when you set up your hand, you want to make sure, assuming that the hand is the same, which has been under some degree of speculation, they might change that aspect of it because they've done this one for like literally 25, 30 years. Um, so you want these poses to obviously connect so cleanly that it could be basically animated. That's kind of the idea, right? That it's you could keyframe it. You could draw those in betweens and it could work. Um, so with that said, the thing that I thought of when I said is just that you have a very clear three-quarter view here that you've indicated this yourself by drawing the side in, which is great. I like this one generally. I think it could be cleaned a little bit. Probably you're still planning on doing that. Um, there's a few little nitpicky things I'm going to go into in a second, but it does it feels a tad like um it turns. It's like your setup here is like something like this, right? That's where we begin, and then the wrist is going down like that. Then what I see in this one is that so this is the we'll just call that the bottom, the side. So this one is like I do really like this one. But it's like here's the top. There's the same side. So, and it really is, I almost like, I almost feel like you should use your Z axis more. Like you're throwing towards us rather than that, maybe like, and consider that the palm can bend a little bit too, right? So, um, like a little bit more of your Z meaning like you see what I'm trying to set up here is this is heavy in the x-axis. You're using so much space in your x-axis, which is generally this axis. Y is this one, and then Z is the difficult one where it's like coming towards us and going away from us, right? So this is very X heavy here. I kind of want you to, oh shoot, that's the same layer. Oh yeah. Oh boy, I'm just drawing on the same layer here. Bad habit. Never do that, everyone. So yeah, with this one that I'm trying to set up here, where and I love what you're doing with the fingers. That's great. But like, yeah, just it could be a little bit more of that sense of like your you know what I mean? Like your Z axis a little bit more dominant, rather than you're being so like off to the side. And you could arc the hand as you have done, but also do that from the point of view of, some of these like this pinky, maybe it should be coming kind of towards us. I kind of do like when there's a one finger, not all of them, but one finger at least that's a little kind of foreshortened. See, when you're doing something like that, then it's like, okay, it connects a little bit better with that one. It doesn't feel like it's just suddenly going off to the side. It's like they're going to throw it that way, and then they change and they kind of went to the side a little bit. So yeah, it's just a little consideration. It's not a huge thing. It's not like a drawing thing. It's just like the pose, basically. Um, One thing you could do to cheat this a little bit, because I am not just a portfolio teacher, I am also your cheater extraordinaire. In that, sometimes it's just a matter of covering your tracks in how you've drawn it. So let's just, humor this for a second. Um, so okay, you've got your side of that hand here set up, right? So what if rather than having see even just the way you've set that up with your understructure there, it's like, wow, okay. I almost feel like that should be going the other direction, right? If that was kind of going like that, then if somehow we could make it so that this was actually overlapping. So here's your ulna bone up there. That's that little bone of the wrist. Your ulna bone is up there. This is kind of coming in, and then a little bit, yeah, this is a little bit wonky because there's usually a little bit more beefiness there. And then where does this come in? Somewhere around here, maybe. So that, even just that, and then maybe we do a little bit of a cheat here. Actually, this isn't too bad. But if you could get that a little bit further, so if you kind of, okay, let me just warp this for a second. So if I could almost just grab this and kind of like I don't know. This is a quick and dirty way to review it, obviously, but um, it's coming towards us is what I'm trying to indicate here. So it's more coming towards us, and maybe even with some of these individual digits, you're overlapping them to kind of communicate that actually we don't, it's not just like that's the end of the finger. We see a little bit at least of that tip of the finger, because then that echoes the same whole that I'm trying to articulate here, which is that you're seeing some of that Z. It's coming towards us a little bit. Um, so yeah, this isn't a great, I'm trying to do this really quick, obviously. But the point, I think you see what I'm saying, right? Like use a little bit more of that Z. So it's not just going off to the side. And also, if you did just keep this as it was and you change the first one, whichever, one thing I would immediately do is just make sure you've got a little bit more of that nail. Because right now it feels like, you're seeing that this is the view of that digit. We see a little bit of the top of that digit. This one, it's like, nope, pure side view, 100%, which is a bit odd. That would have to be rotated a little bit differently. But what you've indicated with the index finger is that probably we should see some of this nail too. So little things like that. Here, so I obviously messed this up here, but make sure the web aspect there isn't coming up too far. It almost looked like it was a little too deep. It was like coming into the finger too much, whereas this should be kind of coming down here. I almost feel like, yeah, with these two, I really feel like we should see a decent amount of the end of that, the pad, I guess, of the finger. Um, yeah, okay. This it's starting to thin out a little bit back there, like it's kind of getting a little light, whereas like that should be where it's thickest. So I forget about that line. Like let's just do that one so that it kind of matches up better with these. And this digit, like look at that digit, right? This digit should be longer and maybe even should feel a little bit like it compresses when it's touching that thing, the paper probably. And probably a little bit more up here. These are the big fingers, right? The index and the middle finger are the usually a little bit larger. So you can usually, yeah, just make sure each digit feels longer than these two. Make sure that thumb isn't too big. It's getting close. I like what you're doing with the inside though. The geometry of the hand is nicely implied there. So overall, pretty good, Alona. It's just, those are some little considerations of that I would take into account. Oh, someone else is here. Oh, welcome, Danielle. I thought that was you in the Discord in the Shared and Hopefuls. Um, so I was just mentioning to everyone, feel free to ask questions anytime or type. Oh, good. I was worried that everyone was talking, but I didn't have my volume on. But I actually do have my volume on. So if anyone wants to chat, feel free or just ask questions in the chat as I'm going. I've just got a bunch of work here. I'm probably not going to grab any more at this point. This is probably enough for this little short review. And I'm going to do these monthly, folks. So stay in the server. Use the Animation Tutor Discord as much as you'd like. I have it there for you so that even if you're not enrolled in anything, you can still get feedback. And a lot of the folks in our server have been accepted in previous years, so they're a lot of shared students, or at least like a lot of them are in fundies even at this point. So you might meet some buds if you're in fundies too. So, anyways, all that to say, please use the server. It's totally free, whether you're enrolled in anything or not. Okay, great. Can't remember whose this is, but cool, a background. Okay, so one thing that I'm thinking of here is something's going like, I'm trying to like what it feels like to me is that the ground plane isn't super articulated. Like it feels like because you have this big foreground kind of well, yeah, it's like a diner. It's like a sweet ramen restaurant. It reminds me of like Tampopo or something. But one of those drop-in ramen places is what it reminds me of. It feels like because of the most of the stuff being obscured by this counter in the foreground, it feels like kind of like you haven't bothered to really articulate what space, like how the space is working in the background, I guess. So like what I would do if I was doing a background is I would really figure out my planes immediately. And to be honest, I'm not okay, so the fridge we're seeing that way. So um I guess that's the corner. Yeah. So okay, let's say that's the back corner. And we have some grid here, but I'm not I'm kind of curious. It looks like you've mostly drawn this in perspective, but I'm also it seems like some has been guessed, or maybe it's just a sketch. Either any of those options are okay if it's just early on and you haven't quite like measured everything perfectly. Some things just are feeling a little wonky, but anyways, so if that's your ground plane, which means that your horizon line, let's see here. Um, so your horizon line would be, I guess, somewhere. Oh boy, that's actually quite far away. So okay, I will just put it in that area generally. And then this one, yeah, okay. So first thing is that maybe, well, I guess okay, maybe the points aren't that far away. Um, I do like when one of the points is in the shot, and I'll explain why hopefully later if I remember. Um, okay. Right. So, yeah, so you have kind of like a, yeah, okay, good. You didn't put the horizon line in the middle. That's good. Um, so now, I guess I'm kind of like some things don't feel like they're of the same scale to your character. Taking this stool as a prime example here, it's just way too small. Like this is something that's actually not too hard to measure. All you need to do is kind of get the center of your stool, kind of measure across, keeping in mind that maybe some of them should be tucked in, just for realism's sake or like part of the storytelling. But yeah, that one we can just tell is way too small. There's a very concrete way to measure scale, right? So like should be at least something like that to really blend in with the rest of these. But yeah, get your scale right. And then like stand up your character here. And I get it, it's a little kid, but we also need to like believe that an adult could fit in here nicely. And like some things like the depth of this counter feels like too much, even for an adult. Like when I look at the bowl size and the depth of the counter, it's like it's a bit of a disconnect. Um, and okay, with placement of objects, it feels too even. Like it's like one, two, three. It's a nice even cadence. And I feel like with object placement, this is a whole thing called in traditional filmmaking, it's called mise en scène, which is set dressing basically. It's just like how you choose these objects and how they all kind of decorate your environment, basically. And with those objects, you really want to make sure that they're spaced kind of in a way that is believable in reality. So one of the considerations I like to have is just to just overlap the heck out of everything. Just like have stuff overlapping other stuff all the time. Just densely overlapped, and you're doing this a little bit more back here, so that's good. But still, you can just kind of see everything perfectly. Like I want to see more obscured stuff. Um, yeah, and I feel like you need more, like if this were a ramen restaurant, you'd have more stuff. Like there's a sink here, which looks a little bit like it's facing the wrong way, like it's facing like it's where the person stands. It seems like it should be like back here. But anyways, yeah, like and the two stoves, like there's a I've seen ramen restaurants and there's a lot of stuff and there's like fans and like there's the heating HVAC stuff above to like capture the moisture and there's just more. This almost feels a little bit like someone's kitchen, but then with a ramen bar in front of it. So and then okay, here's another thing is that your window texture is very similar to your ground texture, so I would offset that a little bit and make it more distinct where this corner is. I kind of found that out, but I'm just guessing. It could be that one. There should be a little bit more, use your texture a little bit more to distinguish different elements of the environment. Um, yeah, I don't know about this. Yeah, it's not bad. It's just like, it's really, I almost want to like bat it out of the way or something. It's just like, it's kind of just almost intruding versus like a plant, which could be in the foreground, but wouldn't necessarily intrude, especially because it's in that corner, not this corner where we kind of want to look. So anyways, a few different things here that are probably going to come up again. Um, okay. Okay, great. So we've got this one. Um, Okay, pretty good. So one thing that's really worth looking at here that is a nice example is the articulation of different textures being reasonably clear. Like the grass is quite obviously grassy, the rock is obviously rocky. Um, Okay, but then I guess if I were to get a little fussy, I feel like this tree texture, the bark, for some reason, I don't believe it as much. I guess maybe it's blending too much with the rock texture. Like even just your spacing, your cadence of this texture and how it flows is a little bit similar. Like the rock is also has this nice gentle flow. So you just need to be a little bit careful about that, of articulating your textures to define different things very precisely so that they express like just obviously different things. Um, and then this bush, like I guess I don't know what that is. Like it almost reads more like foam or something. Like I don't feel the like this is a better example also because you've broken up the texture to be more articulated so that it does stick out. So we're like, oh, that's a different thing. Whereas this, yeah, it almost looks like bubbles or like a bunch of foamy like yeah, bubbles or something. If you want that to be bushes, which I think you do, I would do more like maybe some more description of the actual foliage or just layering. Like I like kind of layered Ghibli-esque kind of breaking down of like things in front of other things, that's versus just this kind of graphic shape. Because that could almost be like a soft rock or something, we don't quite know. Um, this ground and how it flows into the water feels a little bit like it just feels a little underdeveloped. It feels like I want to see some clear fall off between, okay, great, there's some grass here. But then I see this line and I don't quite know what that is differentiating. It kind of seems like the edge of the grass, but if so, why not just draw some actual tufts of grass to say, okay, there's grass here, grass here, grass here, grass up here. That means that my mind is going to create this whole area with grass. But then here, it's like, I don't know. It could be a rock. And in this form, the way that you've drawn it makes me think that it folds underneath. And I don't think you mean that because that would be a little bit weird. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's a rock. But again, that's what I mean. This could be more clear. I shouldn't have any questions. It should be like, this is what it is, obviously, So if it is this cool rock with grass growing on it, sure. But just, I guess one thing I would recommend is maybe have some of it in the water. Like water isn't perfectly opaque. Like maybe you even have some like ooh, or like you can make it a little more like that, or like here's the shallow rocky areas. Sometimes I'll even just like draw rocks and then take it into liquify, which no one knows anymore because no one uses Photoshop. But anyways, and then you just kind of like do something like that, and then you get a nice kind of like wavy effect. But you can also, it's really much easier just to draw this in yourself. But yeah, like if this is water versus milk. Let's maybe see some of it, even if some of it is. I mean, it would be actually nice to have some sticking out, so that then we get some nice ripples that then again confirms that this is water, and then we have these kind of like these little textural bits underneath that help communicate that further. Um, okay, I hope that makes sense. Um, this isn't really a problem, but it's kind of funny how the tail perfectly flows into the plant. I would maybe change that, even if it's just like kind of arcing around here, um, or I don't know, any of the various options. But it's not a tangent, but it's almost like our brain might connect it weirdly. Nice little mushrooms and stuff. I almost want to see more of those. Yeah, nice rocks and. So again, I see. I like this bush a lot more. It reads a lot better as a bush. This like low bush it just feels more bubbly to me. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so here's another consider. I think this is maybe Tays. I'm not sure. Let me know if it is. But I keep thinking everything is Tays though. So this feels a bit distinct from the style of this. If we just take a moment to like really look at how you've done the texture here and then look at that, and it feels like it's like here's your sort of TV version and then here's your feature film version or something like that. I don't know if that is oh, one more person just joined. So yeah, I'm just and also it's flat, right? So if that's where the rock is, then if you do that, then that's putting that on exactly the same plane. this spray should occupy it should really occupy some space. Like it should have some depth, right? It's not just like flat. It's not a decal stuck on the wall. You want it to kind of feel like it's spilling out. So like you've done so nicely here, I would have more overlapping bits of this water that are spilling forward and clearly like, yeah, we want to see that not just as a decal, but as a three-dimensional thing. Um, yeah. Okay. Okay, nice thing that you did is that I like how we see the under area of the tree. So you're kind of mentally creating this ellipse for us to help us understand this geometry, even though it's organic. This is the thing is that everyone thinks the exterior perspective, throw perspective at the window. No, no, no. Everything you draw, all this in nature needs to imply the effect of perspective on it. So, and in fact, I wouldn't even do it like this where you kind of ended that and then here's the thing behind. I would actually merge this a little bit more, like have this wrap around, and we can kind of see that it's like a separate. Sorry, this is just a little bit turning it down a little bit. If we separate it out, but it still feels like all this stuff is behind that stuff above, then we will create that geometry in our minds. This is basically your challenge as background designers is how do you create the 3D geometry that isn't there through your line alone? That is asking a lot of your lines. So you need to make sure that all of your lines are really, yeah, f reinforcing the effect of 3D geometry, basically. Because again, this is more like After Effects, how you'll layer something in the foreground. It's like foreground. Okay, that's this big shape, middle ground, and then your background is just that shape behind. But like, how do we make it feel like the whole thing is volumetric? It's not like flat planes of art. Um, yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, really nice details here. So a lot of this stuff is really working. Yeah, awesome stuff here. Um, but then there's other areas, like even this, I feel like so it's just a bit underdeveloped. It's not that far back. Like we should see a little more detail. Yes, you want to decrease your texture as you go back, but is that back enough that it justifies being such low texture? I don't know. I feel like I put something else in there. Um, but you can thin your line a lot, right? And still draw like a ton of stuff back there and not have it compete at all with any of your foreground stuff. You could even like even the geometry is just a bit simplistic compared to your foreground. Like if you only did this, you could even just like increase the geometry sense a little bit so that it kind of matches a little bit more with your foreground stuff, I guess. That's kind of what I would say here. Um, okay, great. Just jumping into something totally different, which is always nice. Some figure drawing, which I always like to see. Um, these are obviously figures for your personal work because they're a little more stylized. You're using your own mediums. So yeah, whoever's this is, pretty nice. So this is, yeah, it is stylized. And I have a certain extra room for that. Whenever I see more stylized, more playful work, I'm like, okay, great. Like I'm going to consider this differently than I would a typical life drawing. However, there are areas where your stylization is working great, like in your description of hands. I think, that's pretty great. I like that. But then other areas where I'm like, you trying to simplify the form is actually hurting your ability to articulate that form, I guess. So, and like this is just, it's a little too simplified. Um, like I would thin that limb and that curve is just odd. Like sure, like if you want to bring that to a point, that's fine. But then still give it at least some volume there and then curve in after that. Um, sorry, I just resist sharp edges as much as I can when I'm Oh, it's not yours, Tate. Okay, I don't know who's anyone with this work. So just, you're all equal here. Um, yeah, so yeah, just that makes a lot more sense in terms of articulating that. And then here it'd be great to like because you clearly articulated that the head is like t tilting, which is great. There's some funny stuff going on here though where I don't like this angle seems like a bit different than that kind of. And I'm like, I almost feel like this eye should have like come down more. Um, and maybe you even see a little bit of that cheekbone there. Could be. But anyways, aside from that, I guess that doesn't do enough of a neck for me. I kind of want to do something like
like that, collarbone, and then maybe this arm, get that little bump in, and then get the trap in because the trap line, which goes right up to in the back of the neck, basically, is going to help you. It's just going to help like render this form a lot. Like those two lines, I think, are really important, and that line isn't enough to really do that form justice, I guess. This feels a little bit like fingers. That's a bit odd, but I guess it just feels like they're more flat and kind of drawn out. I really like your hyperextension of that. It's getting a little bit to the point where I'm worried about this person, but yeah, not quite there. And that's a bit of a tangent though, how you have both those lines. I almost, it'd be better to do that. But yeah, you can get this level of hyperextension. One little overlap that would be nice would be that one, just in terms of that forearm muscle. A little bit dramatic, but again, I get it. You're kind of stylizing it a bit. Make sure that this is long enough. It doesn't feel that long enough to me. Um, yeah. Yeah, so this is kind of fun. I don't really exactly know that line. I guess it's just like separating the shoulder from the pec. But this is your own fun and I'm not this is the area where I like it, the stylization, right? So there's areas where it works and there's other areas where it's fighting you a bit. Um, yeah. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Um, so yeah, it seems like we're in a warp here where things back here are getting a little too small and things up here are getting a lot larger. Um, Ideally, it's less that way. So I guess like, even just taking this and then bringing it in a little bit so that the head is a little bit more reasonably sized. And then this arm is a little bit big still. You could overlap the shoulder there and then round it out a little bit. One little detour here about figures is that you're going to find there are cases where you want to draw concave curves that are pushing into the form. One thing you're going to find that will help all of you a lot, and I hope everyone listens to this, which is why I'm going to let this person in before I say it, um, is that instead of drawing concave curves, and again, like here are two concave curves, right? It feels like the volumes are pushing inwards into the form. Here's the form right here. Both those concave curves are coming in. Rather than drawing concave curves, in almost all cases in the body, not always, and there are times where you definitely want to have some concave curves, but most of the time you will find you are drawing a lot of convex curves. Even here, do you do that? No, you don't do that. You do another convex curve that then enters into the joint. So it's more that you want to focus on rather than that. Same here. You want this. If you do this, if you try to make mostly convex curves, which again are forms that look like they're pushing out from itself, not into, then you'll find you'll have a lot more full feeling anatomy. Without knowing all the intricate details of anatomy, this is one thing I can tell you that will help a little bit. So like here, for example, yeah, you could draw it like that, but you could also like, actually, let me draw this on a separate drawing. So the arm, we've got the shoulder, the tricep, bicep, and then we've got the forearm, right? Um, One thing that I try to really do with my anatomy drawings is to not stylize at all. I want it to be as naturalistic as possible. This is me. I know there are other tutors out there that really stylize anatomy, and I have issues with that because you can learn the real thing and then you can stylize it. But if you only know the stylized anatomy, it's hard for you to go the other direction, if that makes sense. So I'm a big fan of like learning the anatomy exactly as it appears, really. So anyways, about this whole convex versus concave thing. So what a lot of people do is they'll draw the deltoid, the shoulder, and then they'll do that, and then that for the arm. That is not, it doesn't feel the same way, even though because often to be honest, most of the time you get models that don't have very built triceps, right? So it seems just straight. But because there's this form over here that's coming in, your tendency is going to be to do that rather than to just draw it straight. And this falls apart, and like it's much better to draw like the rounded form, convex, again, pushing outwards from the form, and then another convex form that's curve rather, that is also pushing out, but a little more gradual, a little more stretched out, than to draw yeah, that dynamic. I don't love that. Again, lots of convex. You're going to see so many convex curves. Like the leg is another good example. So a standing So here's the knee. We got the interior leg and then the adductors. Don't worry, this all makes sense in a second. The hips, the outside leg, and then the IT band. And then we have that shin, calf coming down. Okay, great. Very normal looking leg, right? So this is entirely convex curves. It looks like there's a concave curve there, but it's just a mixture of two convex curves colliding. Same convex, convex, convex. This is a straight, so it's not actually doing that. It's a straight line which it maintains more structure, and then another convex, and then more straights. This one is maybe a little convex down there, or sorry, concave. It does look a little bit like it pushes into the form of the interior calf, but anyways, I hope this helps a little bit. This is a thing that I've just been thinking a lot about lately in terms of anatomy. So I do find it helps. Uh, yeah, this is feeling just a little bit flat here. I'd love to see just a little bit more um, curvature in some spots. Um, yeah, okay, not bad. The sharpness of that, I'd rather see the fold because otherwise it doesn't feel like it's gravity is impacting upon it as much. I know it's stylized, but again, this is where it's just, yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, basically. This is odd how that overlaps this. The trap should really be kind of overlapping that, and then you continue the head forward. That would make a lot more sense. This feels a little bit big, and overlap that. That's a great one to overlap right there. Um, yeah, okay, great. So lots of good stuff happening in here. Okay, some layouts. Oh boy, I'm gonna run out of time. Um, okay, so whose are these? If anyone wants to, um, yeah, again, any questions, anyone, just ask away. Okay, let's talk about the interior first, because that's the traditionally, I guess, more difficult. Um, this room is a bit humongous. Ooh, yeah, I would love to see like less of it, weirdly. Like it almost feels like we're the camera person trying to find the right shot or something. We haven't found it yet. Because like if you had something just like this, it feels like it would be a little bit more contained. Because the issue of having a big environment is that you have to kind of use the space and make it make sense, right? Um, like right now if like I think about the size of like one of these people, I'm like, whoa, wait, we could get like so many people in this room. Like I could just layer, 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 like that's so many like people sitting. This room feels too big. It doesn't feel like the cabin that you're trying to achieve here. So you need to make it let's just see. And I also want to see what's going on with your horizon line. Um that might give us the sometimes in order to figure out what's going on. You need to follow everything through. Okay, so you have one point in the environment, and then where's the other point going? I guess somewhere far off, probably. Yeah, somewhere far off. So good. It's not one point. I thought it was for a minute, but um, well, it's close to one point though. Like a lot of this is, yeah, and this thing doesn't feel like it when you turn objects in perspective, you can't just kind of guess at it. That's going to take longer to explain, but basically, this kind of feels like it's tilted one way or the other, either towards us or against us. I think it's tilted um, against us. It's hard to tell, but yeah, just this doesn't quite work in my opinion. This works a lot better. That does feel like it's on the ground. And then some of these forms back here, like how that it feels like it's almost going under the bed. This should definitely be above. Um, but yeah, okay. So that's your horizon line. Yeah, like if it were me, I would have had less room for just the ground. I would have brought this down further. So it was something more like this. Actually, okay, to be honest, I would have had this edge of the room and drawn even just a little bit of that edge, but it would have been a lot further. Yeah, actually, it would have been like probably something like this. Um, and then that would go across. And then so that would be you could almost like take what you have and just modify it slightly so that we see. So this feels like a smaller room now. It feels like more of the scale that these people are. So that's yeah. And then some stuff like we should see the top of that. There's some perspective issues that are going to take longer to kind of dissect piece by piece. But and then this bed seems like it's turned, but not in a way that makes sense. Like we should see both bed poles going back there, really, because it probably was placed on the grid of the room. Um, so yeah, there's some things here that need a little tending, in my opinion. Um, it's fun that these are connected. I like that you connected your layouts. You don't have to. There's no benefit to doing it, but it's, it's fun to notice. Um, yeah, it's funny, you've kind of done the same thing where so much of this is just the ground. Whereas you've got great stuff going on back here. I'm like, and these trees really like this stuff is great. Why are we seeing so much of this? Um, I guess like if this were me, I'd get this tree out of the way. Let's see this in full view. Let's see more of it really and like bring it more close to the camera. Like this line should be maybe here so that this is a little closer. Not still not necessarily that like you can make it so that this is a very curved ground so that your character's still like, I don't know, that big or something. And then you just make sure that it makes sense with the size of the door, etc. Get that to work. And then you've got all this stuff in a much fuller view. Get more trees. Like, yeah. Just less that's just kind of boring ground and not much happening before. This is important. Like I know that this foreground is important, but all this stuff, like, geez, less of it. Like, let's see more of that background stuff or bring some of this beautiful detail into the foreground so that's a little more interesting. That's what I would say for this one. Um, okay, characters, fun. We'll end with some characters. Um, okay. Whose is this? I would love to. Oh, sorry. Danielle, did Sheridan say not to do the interior and exterior of the same place for layouts last year? I don't think they care. I've never heard that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, Danielle, that it doesn't matter. In fact, no, I've seen plenty of people that do the same environments for interior and exterior. Also, one thing to consider about that is that it really could be argued. Like, who could say that that's the same? It looks similar. It looks like a similar sort of vibe, but that's about it. I don't remember seeing anything about that. Let me just quickly check now that I'm here. That is not the right thing. Here it is. Okay, yeah, here's the requirements, which are hopefully again coming out any minute now. So for the layout, if anyone wants the requirements for the past 7 years, just give me a shout. Oh, I passed it. Here it is. Do not draw the same place twice. Touche. Okay. Um, Yeah, they do. They say, thanks for saying that, Danielle. This is great to know. I've never noticed that before. And honestly, I've never really seen that impact the marks. I have seen some cases where people have done the same environment twice, but yeah, that's funny. Wow, that has never come up. That's kind of wild. Um, here's the thing about the Sheridan requirements is that they don't seem to care too much about their own requirement. Like there are people that do like 10-second short animations and then get like perfect scores. I wouldn't recommend doing that, obviously. You don't want to increase your risk unnecessarily, but I really don't think they're too fussy about it if it's good. Like they just want it to be good. Whatever you do, make it good. That's step one. Everything else is after that. So if it's like, if they're asking for 48 frames of an animation, a lot of people include 72 or 96 or whatever, but 6 second long animations. As long as it's good, that's the point. And as long as it's not like super long, then yeah. Um, anyways, thanks for that little tip, Danielle. Okay. First of all, very fun character, like an older woman pitcher, it looks like, or batter, I guess, either way, but she's a baseball player. Um, some things that, so in terms of your sort of three-dimensional grid here, which generally is going to be something like this, right? This is the kind of perspective we think about. I don't see this distance that I see here. Like that seems like it just, yeah, I would bring this foot a little more forward, maybe that foot a little bit more back. That actually would be easier if you brought that foot a little bit more backward. Um, Shiloh, they're not the same requirements. These are the requirements for 2024. So there's specific The ones that they provide online are very general, whereas this is just the one they used last year. So just to be super clear here, this is not the portfolio requirements for this year. This was the portfolio requirements for last year. And there's a lot of speculation saying that this is going to change. So like, here's the object. Um, Here's the fox for the storyboard, right? This is what it was last year. A lot of you probably made your portfolio last year. Um, yeah, so it's not the same online. The online one is just very general. I think they take out some of the specifics. Melina, so is the theme I'm going for safe? I don't want to lower my chances somehow. The theme, Melina, what was yours this one? I think the camp thing is fine. Um, and I would argue that this is not exactly the same plate. Like, yeah, we see the building, but um, yeah, I don't know. I think again, I have not seen that rule enforced at all. And you could argue that it's not the same. So I really wouldn't worry too much about that. But I mean, maybe just take out the cabin or something if you or put something else in. Put like a ruin back there or something just to be, just really double down on the fact that this is not the same place. That's what I would do. I'm risk averse. I'm like, don't give them any opportunity to take off marks. So if it were me, I would do something different in the background other than just a house that looked like it maybe is that house, just to be safe. Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, so this character, a great shape language, first of all. This arm is short, which, both of the arms are short, but she feels like someone that shouldn't have such short arms. Like when I look at her large torso, I just feel like, if you're gonna do short, like make it kind of short and squat, kind of like her midsection, right? But it's almost like you're using different shape language that is a bit incongruent with the rest. So yeah, like even something like that would be a little more fitting probably for her anatomy. Um, yeah, I would personally make this like a bulge and then like so that you got this kind of like little like the waddle, that they they can get in their neck. I think that would be really funny. Um, I really like her determined look. Um, I think you could. I wouldn't make it perfectly symmetrical. I'm really a big fan of like asymmetrical um, expressions on their faces in the front, and maybe even amp up her vibe a little bit. Like, how can we? What if we? What if one eye is lazy? Hey, that's an idea. If one eye is kind of like over there, I don't know. Maybe that's too much. But either way, just like, yeah, get that lid raised a little bit. Maybe one eye is just slightly lower than the other or something. Just so it really is this kind of intense expression. And rather than straight across, let's see what's doing from other views. Yeah, give it a slight tilt. Why not? Like again with the asymmetry thing. Um, yeah, um, it definitely works better yeah, it's because it's going straight back. Now, you could cheat this a little bit and just push it out. That might be a good idea, honestly, so that it's kind of like that. Because we don't know exactly if it's straight back or if it's, a slight angle. You can kind of change that yourself. Um, yeah, and again, I just kind of like want her arms to be kind of just want them to be long and kind of lean, like yeah, like she could really make those young folks have a run for their money here with her batting. Like she's actually kind of a pro. I like what you did with the legs, nice like little shape language. Um, yeah, and try not to make it too like that. It just feels yeah, maybe a straight and a curve might work a little better. Um, yeah. Overall, very fun though. Okay, just make sure that your perspective is right here because, um, yeah. Okay, you know what? It might be. It's just that then. That for some reason something here is feeling a bit odd. Um, Kind of a hilarious area to highlight, but I think it's mostly this in here that felt a little bit odd. And this, like, let's get more of that. And I have it go up a little bit. It'd be kind of nice to like not have it be just perfectly like robotic. Um, you might be able to do it where you could see more of the actual face here, even if it's just very foreshortened. And again, there's that kind of waddly thing. So it's kind of like something like that. I don't know. You might actually be able to see some of the face there if you try, but I like how there's that diagonal. That's fun. The hat looks like it's giving you some trouble. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's not too far off, but it just yeah, and this feels a bit flat. That feels a bit like stuck on kind of. Um, yeah, and make sure that feels like it's coming out of the head at a particular spot. Do the construction, I guess, and tell us exactly how every shape fits into the previous shape. Um, okay, this is pretty fun. I'm kind of like halfway to understanding this animal, but it looks like it could be like a mole, um, maybe a beaver. I don't know. It's a few different things that I don't quite know, but and also like if you have points in the design, try to find ways to bring them in elsewhere, like maybe that's not a good example, but um yeah, and I guess that isn't either. But it'd be nice to kind of, oh, and you have a crease there. Make sure that crease is totally visible here. Um, yeah, I like that. It doesn't need to be a whole piece though. You could lose that in some areas and then pick it up later so that it does feel like it's the same form as the rest. It's not like a separate, like a mustache or something on top. It's like this thing is the same as this thing down here. That's all skin, right? Um, yeah, like okay, with that thing, maybe do you do something like that or something and then round it on this side? Um, I don't know. It's just like having if you just have one single point in the whole thing. I guess you have a point up here. Feels very Klausy up here. Nice work there. I would also have the hat like going off to one side, even from the front view. It might be kind of more fun to do that anyways. Um, it's hard. I kind of want to see the eyes. I don't know, just because we're gonna probably need to see the eyes of the character at some point. But yeah, and the arms, yeah, I don't quite get that same. I almost feel like it needs to come in like that or something. Um, yeah, seems like that makes a little bit more sense. Um, you just have to foreshorten it a little bit more. Yeah, try not to make it too symmetrical. I guess that's one of the things. We just have a few minutes left here, folks. I'm just kind of burning through them. Um, Wow, this is funny. I saw this reminds me of another character I reviewed a previous year. Um, okay. Yeah, it works. I think you could push it a little bit more. Um, I think you could just make a like without getting too much into like some of my classwork, one of the exercises that I have students do is to really like dig into the personality of who their character is. And I really do like to think about the psychology of their characters so that the whole story can kind of unfold from that, I guess. And yeah, like I don't it feels a little bit more neutral to me, which is kind of the enemy of character design. Like it's fine, it works as a design, but one thing I guess that and okay, I need to say right off the bat, the arm connection is very iffy at best. It's very odd and very flat. Um, Try to do like a more rounded form so that it doesn't, yeah, it's just that dynamic, and then this is very strange. But all this to say is that honestly, if I were you, I would maybe do a different character. And I'm not saying this because this is bad. It's not. It's good. It's just that I just need to emphasize this because all of you are, whether you're domestic or international, you're competing with such like huge talent these days that the bar just keeps rising. And so like this character is good, and I could like if we fixed a few little things, I could animate them. Like they could work as an animated character, absolutely. However, like when you look at some of the past accepted portfolios, you start to realize like, okay, I need to up my game even further. Like you're doing great. It's just like, but you need to be fantastic. Like a lot of the character designs that you see in these portfolios are like the storytelling is amped up to 11, right? So it's very like this war-torn little cat medic, like holy, like really fun idea. This like weird like frog businessman guy. Just like really, good shape language. This one is fantastic. So I don't know when you're competing with like this kind of like level of wow, that's a great character. I guess yeah, like as an animal, like yours is an animal too, right? But here's another version of an animal that worked really well and is great, like simple but dynamic shapes, very three-dimensional, like again with the rounded little thing that I added to your shirt there. Things like that, like everything is considered here. So just it's just because of I only recommend this because yeah, see even this is kind of similar to yours in a way, but it has a little bit more of just not like I'm shy. It says a little bit like has this determined like I'm gonna get this done and I'm gonna do great in the world kind of look to the character. So how to imbue your character with a ton of storytelling and personality is a very delicate act, but I think that like I think it's worth doing. I think as much as you can, you should really push it, push it, push it, make it more extreme. Um, yeah. Okay, great. I'm glad that helped. Again, I'm not trying to be like super harsh. It's just that I'm just telling you what I would do if I was in your shoes, and I think, yeah, just amping up the character a bit more would be great. Okay, well, it's six folks. So again, I'm going to do a free review monthly. If anyone wants to be in more consistent sort of training, you can just check out my website. It's just theanimationtutor.com. There's tons of different programs and courses and stuff. But otherwise, stay tuned for next month, and I'll see you then for a review. All right. Yeah, so good to see some familiar folks here. Nice to see you, Danielle. And yeah, take care, everyone.